convenient. I usually ask if we have any hiring managers on site. Anyone here is hiring? Hiring managers? No? Well, I do have a couple of opportunities to share with you guys. So I work for TrustFlight. I just realized I didn't introduce myself. So my name is Bibi, and I work at TrustFlight. I'm an intermediate software engineer. And actually, TrustFlight is hiring for 3 positions right now. We have a senior, we have 2 tech leads. We're full TypeScript, JavaScript, you guys would love it. But yeah, if you guys are interested in applying or you need a referral and you think you're a good fit, come see me afterwards or message me on LinkedIn. Cool. All right. Let's get things going. Hopefully you guys are fans of remote. If not, please talk to Mike. He'll convert you. But why don't we talk about accessible forms next? So I would like to introduce you guys to Gustavo. So Gustavo is a staff front-end engineer at Thinkific. He's passionate about design systems, user experience, and web accessibility. Today, he'll be talking about a step closer to accessible forms. Please welcome Gustavo.
Yeah, so yes, hello, good evening. Thanks a lot for being here tonight. I'm thankful to be here to share something with you. I hope to learn with you as well tonight. Thanks a lot, Bibi, Sean. And thank you all. This is my second time doing this, so I'm a little bit nervous, but thank you. I do need sound for this to make sense. So I don't know if this is somehow connected. I'll check with some music to the sound system. No, it's not.
I figured out how to get the sound going.
Oh, really?
Yes.
How is it?
Why don't you tell a joke?
Okay.
Don't tell a joke.
The joke is, imagine you need to go to a meetup and you need audio and you don't know how to set up this. That's the good joke.
Wait.
No one laugh. I think it's a bad joke.
It's a tough crowd tonight. Tough crowd. Wait, hold on.
Thanks.
It's live troubleshooting, guys.
Oh, the output maybe?
Here we go.
Ooh.
Okay.
All right.
Try now. Do you want me to hold this for you, brother?
Oh, cool. Estou preparando. All right. Thanks. No, that's okay. All right. So, spoiler. All right. Yeah. So let's talk about a step closer to accessible forms. Maybe I don't need this. Just like so my name is Gustavo. I'm a front-end developer, and I work at Thinkific. It's a really hard name to say, but it's a cool company. It's from Vancouver, and it's an education platform. So basically, people create courses online, and like they use our platforms to do that. So if you want to create a school online, if you wanted to sell any kind of knowledge, you can go to Thinkific and you can create your own course. Or we have even like smaller clients or big giant companies as well. There are like universities and all of that. And actually, we are hiring as well. We have one intermediate full stack engineer position open, also data analyst, staff, and principal software engineer. Our stack is mostly JavaScript, TypeScript, and also Ruby and Rails, a little bit of Node. That's all that I know, actually. So if you wanna know more about this, you can go to thinkific.com/careers, and also if you want to chat afterwards, I can give you a referral if you need, like stuff like that. But actually, those positions are not for my team, so I know like a little bit. I don't know too much about those. But that's it. So let's go to the topic though. Let's talk about forms. So I think everyone here might be very familiar with forms, like, so when you're trying to create an account at Thinkific, you'll face this thing, which is the way that we interact with computers or websites most of the time. Like, we need to provide any kind of information we need to input, we use forms, right? So I think this is I don't think we need to spend too much time here explaining about forms. Everyone knows forms, which is good. So, like, you can use it for a lot of different things, very important things. So yeah, forms everywhere. And accessibility. How many people here have heard about web accessibility before? Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. So maybe we don't need to spend too much time about talking about this as well. But I'll use some content here from Sarah Soldang, like from the Practical Accessibility Today course. It's a really good one. I talked about this in my previous talk here at BenJS. But yeah, to explain quickly what is web accessibility, when we are thinking about like digital products like a web app or even like a mobile app, everyone needs, like a good use and usable design. So usability is like this big area where like you're trying to provide the best experience for your users. So you want your product to be usable. You want your product to be easy to use, to your users to be happy. So all of that, right? And inside usability, like you can't actually have a usable product if it's not inclusive. And inclusive, at least as part of your target. So let me explain that. Inclusivity, like it includes like language and also like internet access connection. So let's say that you're creating an app for an area or a region that the internet connection there is very slow, very like you need to take that into consideration. And about language, you need to understand like where your product is going to be used. Like the people that are going to use your product, do they like speak English or Portuguese or Spanish or French, what? So all of that is part of inclusivity. So if you are creating a product that it's going to be used mostly in Montreal, for example, it's very important that like to be a very good usable product by the population, it's important to have support for the French language. That's an example. But maybe you don't, like, depending on your target audience, you don't need that product to support Portuguese language, for example. So you can focus, but you definitely need some level of inclusivity on your products to be a good product. And also, like inside inclusivity, we also have like accessibility. So to make sure that your product can be accessed by people that has like some kind of disabilities. And let me talk about it very quickly. And also, like, I'm not an expert in this topic, so maybe I can say something wrong here. Like, just raise your hand if you disagree. And also, if you don't know and you have any question about it, like, feel free. This is a safe space. We are all learning here together. But basically, like, there are some kinds of disabilities, and when we are thinking about disabilities, like usually we talk about people that has like a permanent disability, right? So a person that is blind, for example, but disability can also be like temporary, or conditional, for example. So temporary, let's say, in terms of mobility, you had an accident, and for a while you can't move that much one of your arms, for example. That's a temporary disability. But like a conditional disability or temporary, like in a way that, for example, you're holding a baby or you're doing something else with your other hand, that's also a kind of like your ability to play with the products, like to interact with the product, it's quite limited, right? And in terms of visibility, in terms of visual disabilities, have you ever like tried to use your phone when you have like very poor battery and it's a very shiny day, like the sun is very bright and your screen like it's almost invisible? That's also like you don't necessarily need to have any kind of permanent disabilities to be affected by a bad design, you know. So how can we ensure that an experience is accessible? Does everyone knows here like W3C? Yeah, so like some people don't like, yeah, it's the web consortium, and inside, like, it's where basically the web is defined, like HTML, CSS, like all the patterns that we use. But also they have this initiative called the WAI, like WAI. And as part of this group, they have introduced something called Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and which sometimes, like most of the time, you're going to hear about this as LCAG or WCAG. And what is WCAG? It's basically like a guideline. So it's only a guideline. It's not something that actually guarantees that your product it's going to be 100% accessible, but it's a guideline on how you can like achieve a better, or like steps that you can take, or like things that you need to consider to have a most accessible product. So I'll give you some examples of like, this is a guide, so it's very, and they have like some criteria. So why this guide is important? It's because accessibility is becoming something more and more like required in some specific industries, or and also in some country. Like it's there are some bills being applied at the country level, like in the US and also Brazil, for example. I'm from Brazil, Europe. So they have like some certain products in those areas, like they need to be compliant with WCAG, for example. Like they have all kinds of like different requirements and all of that, but some of these countries, they use WCAG as the reference. So for example, like one guideline might be like, so in terms of labels, the labels or instructions are provided when content requires user input. This is the level 1. Level 2, we have like an error suggestion, for example, another success criteria. And level AAA, which it's very hard to achieve. You don't necessarily need to achieve it all the time. Like sometimes it's going to be very, very hard to achieve that. But it's just like, how can you like go to a level beyond and provide, like, for example, in terms of forms, you can provide like context sensitive help for your input. Well, but that sounds very complicated. So the best way to guarantee that your product or your experience is accessible is just like testing it. And more than that, like test with people with disabilities. As I say, like before we go more, like you can have like temporary disabilities and all of that, but one thing that it's important, like do not try to emulate a disability. Like really involve people with disabilities in your process. So if you're like in a small community, like you're doing an app for your university, or something like that, try to find people in your community that it's actually using your app and people that has disabilities to give you feedback, like talk to them and see like, how is this experience working for you, and what are the problems here? So talk to them and involve them in the process. But if you're like working in a large company and you need to achieve like a certain level of, like you need to guarantee that your products are accessible, there are some ways that you can do that, like some platforms that can help you with that. And I want to talk about Fable. This is not an ad. Like I don't work to Fable. I work with them. We actually hire them, and I love them. And I will be keeping speaking about them for free forever because it's awesome. It's a company owned by and run by people with disabilities, and they have like a big group of testers. So basically, they help you testing your product. So if you're working on something, you can hire them to use your product and let you know, like they provide you very detailed feedback on like what are the challenges they are seeing. And also, yeah, Fable is also a Canadian company. It's from Toronto. So for those, like if you're trying to boycott any oligarchy around the world, like maybe that's a good call. All right, so let me show you something here. So, okay, we talked about forms, accessibility, it's all good into here, like no, okay, let's go. So I'm gonna share a little bit about the experience that we had at Thinkific. So we are trying to create accessible forms over there. And we did the first thing. So as I told you, let's test it. So we asked the users to use our platform. And now I'll stop talking and I'll share some videos from actually Fable testers testing our product and providing feedback at first, like day zero of the experiment.
It doesn't tell me why it won't log me in. It just doesn't log me in. And so I think that can be slightly adjusted to where it has like the red exclamation point after the under the password, or something like that. Maybe you can tell me why it won't log me in. It doesn't even tell me why.
Yeah, so you can see there's like very, like the error, we can note, like maybe you can notice the error here, maybe you can't. Like there is a sentence here saying invalid email or password, but this is like at the top of the form, there is no differentiation in terms of like the color. So it's all like all white as all the other text. So it's really hard to understand that this is an error. And also like that it relates for the password and also to the email. Like let's check another form from a different area of the process. So people, please don't like consider that this is I'm sharing with you like parts of the products from a long time ago. So now we have worked on those areas and it's like way better, trust me. So please hand cap for us.
Oh, I see. There is an error that says product topic can't be empty. So I'm going to select something in the second drop down. There was an error that appeared, but I had to manually find it. I was expecting if there were any errors to have it automatically announced to the screen reader. So that is a bug as well.
Yeah, I forgot to mention also like the people with disabilities, they usually use assistive technologies, and this like in this example, the tester is using a screen reader technology. So it's basically a tool, like a software that reads everything that is on the screen for them. So it's mentioned here that he was expecting to hear an error, so he tried to submit to save this form without providing the product topic, which is required, but that was not announced at all.
Create your account. The data. By signing up for an account, create your account. First name, email, people consent form, separate, sign up with Google.
I'm seeing if we do the error message in the software. It said invalid data, but that's it. It doesn't say what the error message is.
Yeah, so in this case, like just say like invalid data, and the screen reader haven't like announced anything else. Another example here.
Again. Now, it did say my password met all the requirements. That's good. I'd like to know that. Company size. Just going to pick something. Now, I'm going to come out of forms mode, the forms mode feature in JAWS. I'm going to go back up to the first edit field, and I'm going to just down arrow through the form and see if I missed any fields or made any mistakes filling it in. I didn't hear any error messages, but I'm going to check. Oh, Okay, so error, what's your last name? So I missed the last name field. It would be nice to hear that from JAWS. When I tabbed away from the last name field, it would be nice to hear the error message spoken. I had to look for an error. So I'm going to fill in the last name. I'm going to go back out of forms mode and just check I didn't miss anything else. Nope. Create your account.
Yeah, I'll stop here because it gets. So please take into consideration that like people are using all the different kinds of technologies to access your website. After that, like he's going to mention how he would prefer to not have a CAPTCHA challenge here. Although like even the CAPTCHA, they offer an option like in audio, but that's very like, you know, like are just for form fields. Like if you go back here, it's like your first name, last name, email, password, and I think that's like the company size, like 5. Yeah, and you think like, oh, this might take like 30 seconds for someone to sign up. And it's actually like depending on the technology that you're using and like how many like barriers you create, like it can take like sometimes like 10 minutes to create an account. All right, so how do we fix that? By the way, are we good on time? Like, yeah, okay, let me know if you're not. Any ideas like what we could do here in this case to like make this experience better? We noticed that like the user took a while to understand like where the error was, and was in the last name and the company size. Like any thoughts? Like, you can say, yeah.
What I would do is like check that the tabbing is query is correct, focus the error, area label when it happens, check that everything is tagged correctly with the area label. What I do accessibility to
Okay, okay, so we have an expert here. Any other thoughts? Oops. Yeah.
There are Chrome extensions which can help you with that.
Cool.
You can point you to the area which is not accessible,
Mhm.
and also some linking that can be rolled.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Do you have any
Names? No.
No? Yeah. Okay. No, but that's good. Like that actually exists. There is one called Decky Axi Tools. I think it's for like there's like a plugin for Chrome. So that, yeah, good answer.
I don't know if you can interact with the screen reader at all. But if you go from like one field to the next field, maybe you can tell the screen reader, error, you need to enter something in last name.
Mhm.
Something like that, like more interactive.
So you mean like once I submit a form, I just focus on
Well,
the.
if you're going through the form, like he was doing down,
Uh-huh.
maybe like if you skip over a field that doesn't have that doesn't validate, the screen reader will like say error, you need to enter last name.
Yeah. Cool.
But it did. It did in that one.
Yeah. After a while, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, as soon as it got the last name, it was like, error, what's your last name?
Yeah. After he was trying to find the error, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So.
What about using the HTML5 validation that actually tells the user that you can't leave the form and put valid in the form and everything else?
Yeah, good call. Good answer as well. Like, yeah, HTML form validation. And I thought about that too. I was like, okay, so HTML has it, so let's keep it simple. Stop the validation on JavaScript. And then I read this. Yeah, Adrian Rosselli is like a big expert in accessibility, and they explain in this article like how the browser validation is actually pretty bad. Some of these are not even written by screen readers. And in this example here, they're showing how they zoom in the screen, like, and the zoom doesn't follow, like that rule doesn't apply to the form, like to the browser's error message. So you cannot zoom in the message if you need to increase the font size, for example. So yeah, I had that answer as well. I was trying, but yeah, it's not so good. Another thing that I learned is that like disable buttons is really bad. Like don't do that, because in that example you could see like the user is trying to understand what is in the screen, so they are going to navigate all the form first. And if you have a disabled element, they are not going to be able even to focus on that element to listen what does that form does. Okay. Yeah. Well, so there are some ways, but usually, unless if you're really sure that like that's like disabling that button is going to provide a good experience for the user, I think there are some ways. Like first, don't use the HTML disabled attribute. That's going to make your button not focusable at all. But if you still want to provide, like there is a flow that you really want that button to be not highlighted, to disappear a little bit, there are another ways to do that. You can use area label, which is a HTML attribute, and it's going to communicate to screen readers, oh, this button is disabled, but they can actually listen to the label itself. And also you can apply like CSS style to maybe like reduce the opacity a little bit, but just be careful because it needs to have like enough contrast. Even if you don't want to call the attention to that element, you still want the user to see that what is this about, right? Cool. All right. Let's keep going. Yeah, so this is an example that is a part of this article. I recommend you go in there and check. Like there are like some other ideas to, if you really need to use it, how you can do it. Yeah, so besides the requirements, like all the success criteria and all of that, WCAG also provides some techniques. So you don't necessarily need to follow those, but are very helpful. And if you, like some of these are like mind-blowing. And there is this technique that talks about creating a mechanism that allows users to jump to errors. And that sounds confusing, but let me show you. So this is the component that we have developed in our design system. And it's simple as this, like a little box that it's included at the top of the form. And it provides to the user not only a list with all the errors in that form, but also provides a link, which is basically a button, technically, that when the user clicks on that link, it focuses automatically on the field that has the error. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a nice idea. But when I, like, so, for example, let's go back to that problematic form. So now, I hope it's possible to see from there. Yeah, if the user tries to save, so that's the good thing, like let them try, let the button enable if you can. So they're gonna try, and like some errors, of course, because those fields are required, but we are providing them like a summary here, and if they click on those links, they're going to be focused, like the focus move to whatever they click on. Sounds good, like sounds a nice idea, but I didn't have like an idea of how this impacts the user experience, and we just got so many positive feedbacks, and I want to share with you.
Okay, this is really, really nice. Like, I'm literally smiling. Like, this makes me so happy because not only does it tell me the error that is, preventing me from submitting the application or the form, but it gives me a button that brings me to it, to that error. So like this form is small, it's not easy, but like if there's a big form, multiple sections, like that goes a long way. I'm not sure if they want.
Yeah, let's pause here. Another one. Okay, so this tester is using assistive technology that it's controlling interacting with the computer by voice. So it's like all on voice commands.
42.
So you can see that all the interactive elements, there are like a number attached to it, and when they speaks the number, the software clicks on the element for them.
Not even message. Oh, I also like that it's allowed you kind of cleared the arrows, like what it's missing. I like that it's kind of checked them off. Actually, I really appreciate that. Because then you don't have to go hunting through the form. Scroll down.
Pause here.
Okay, and another please check the quality errors. I like how there was a link, so I just clicked on the link and it brought me to the to found me where the error was.
So let's press enter.
Melbourne View Police Station, following air goes happening on the group. Melbourne Police Village, Police Chance, group enter, target URL.
And that's one thing that I like, how the screener announces that it actually gives you an error message. So that's great.
Rewire blank, weapon target group.
Going to, okay, choose a country. I like how I was able to click on the buttons to jump back to the form field. That is very nice and something I don't see very often. So that is going to.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. It's not the end yet. Like that's so the claps are goes to the component. So you can see like how a very small visual element makes all the difference. Not only visual, right? But it's like makes all the difference for all the different kind of users. Like we had examples here from people using screen magnification. So when they need to zoom in, people using voice command, and also people use screen reader. So it's good for all of them. And also, to be honest, like it makes your experience better for all the users, right? Because imagine like the first guy reported that if this was a very long form, I think you can think that as a beneficial thing for everyone, because you have a list with all the errors and you don't need to be scrolling down the form. Like imagine like a giant form. That helps a lot. So yeah, coming to the end here. One thing that I want to share with you is just like learn accessibility if you're interested. Like, but honestly, like I do think that everyone that works in web, like web development, you should give it a chance. Like at least learn a little bit, because it's really important. I wish someone had told me when I started. Like I started like almost, I don't know, more than 15 years ago. Yeah, I'm old. But yeah, I just started learning accessibility like in the last 5 or 6 years or so. So I wish I have started this earlier, because honestly, my code is way better now. Like all the experiences that I create, it's way better when you're thinking about accessibility first. And I have some resource to share with you here, like Carrie Fisher. She's one of the most brilliant, talented people when it comes to accessibility. She created this course with Alexandra, and it's available at web.dev. It's for free, so all free. Also, Sarah Soldain, as I told you, like the author from the Practical Accessibility Today, she also has her blog and like very helpful resource as well. She's also like a brilliant expert. Yeah, so her course, this one is paid. It's really worth it. But yeah, if you want to do like learn free stuff, you can just go to her blog as well. But this course, like if you're looking for a way to learn everything about accessibility, this is the one to go to. Adrian Rosselli, as I told you, and if you're working more with components like design system, this is a good resource as well. It's also free. Inclusive components, they have like some good recommendations when you're thinking about the component level. And some people ask like, can we use AI to do that so we don't need to talk to those people like that? No, you can't, because I mean, you can actually. Like, there are some companies doing DAC, which is the company that does that plugin. They also have like some AI solutions to try to map like some screens and some page that are not compliant with WCAG. Some of this stuff are really easy to track, but it's actually like it's around 30% of the issues that you can catch with automated solutions like AI. And also, like, what AI is good in is like replicating what we have done before, right? And it's actually like, this is a report updated, very recent, and it's like 88% of the internet is non-compliance. So it's, if you're probably just like asking AI to generate something for you, it's probably based on a product that it's not accessible. So do it. Test with people. Involve people with disabilities in your design, in your development process, and that's the recipe for success. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. And, oh, yeah. Yeah, questions? That's the hardest part.
Want to appreciate, don't have a question. Thank you so much for sharing that information. I think a lot of people in this room and outside as well, they talk about accessibility, but don't really actually see it from the lens of a person who's actually using the tools and technology that we are creating. I can share my experience a little bit as well. One of my past companies, I don't want to name it, they also wanted to implement accessibility and talk all about WCAG 2.0. But really, what developers are told most of the time is, okay, follow these rules, and the testers are, again, to your point, are imitating how a disabled person would use your system. And then we, as developers, would create maybe automated tests on Selenium or whatever to imitate what accessibility would look like. This is the first time I'm seeing this. To be able to test from the person who's actually going to be using from an accessibility point of view, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Yeah, it's another person. Yeah, it's really like when people consider at first like we need to do something automated because like it's always about budget and you want to, and it's crazy like how we don't think about involving people. Like I remember once having a discussion with a person that was like, no, we can actually translate our interface, so it's about inclusivity, our interface to multiple languages, and I was like, and they tried it too. And as a Brazilian, like Portuguese native speaker, I checked the Portuguese version of the translations and I said, oh, this is really bad. Like, doesn't make any sense. And they were like, no, but this is an automated solution. It's good. And I said, okay, yeah, so let's use this automated solution. I'm going to write down all the interface in Portuguese, and we provide the users with the automated solution translated to English, right? So you can use it as like, and as soon as we say that, like, they were, oh, okay. So when you are in this position, like, oh, we need to include more people. So when you're talking about inclusive design and you need to provide a product in Portuguese, please involve people that speaks Portuguese in your process, please. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I know you used forms in this specific example, and you showed like the percentage of the web that is compliant and not, and there's obviously like a huge part of the web that's not compliant and not accessible. But is there any other like portions of a website or like areas of the internet where you see that this is a large issue, like other than forms or other than this specific example, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think like, yeah, navigation is a good example. I think like, yeah, it's all bad. Like when you, sorry, we can make it better. We're learning here how to make it better. But like the experience, sometimes websites and like apps, they rely a lot on images, for example, like Instagram. And I noticed that I think it's still like maybe recently they have introduced it, but for a long time, Instagram didn't have like a way for you to write down an alternative text for the images. So it was all AI generated stuff, very random. So yeah, I think it's everywhere, like navigation, image, like things are not well described. So yeah, it's not only forms for sure.
The report you showed there with the compliance graph there, that's a strict, measurable, objective format. Like all those, there's obviously automated tests that measure that, or is that more subjective, like if the hired users that you're showing the video? That's obviously a little more subjective, whereas this chart seems to be more objective standards that can be measured automatically.
Mm. Yeah, so I think the way that they do this is like for like proportional, like comparison with like you can check more details at the accessibilitychecker.org. Like they have the full report and they have like all detailed how they run this research. But I think it's basically impossible to to verify every single website in the world. But one thing that is not so hard is like using automated technologies like these plugins, you can see if there's like at least one accessibility issue, and I think that's like the case. Like, so as I told you, like 30% of the issues you can catch with automated solutions. So it's actually, and if you run these automated solutions on top of like most of the websites, it's going to show some errors for sure. Like, and those errors are like very basic errors. If it's catchable in a automated solution, it's probably that like the website has way more deep and terrible stuff.
Well, I wonder if you've heard of accessibility trolls or ADA trolls.
Accessibility tools?
Trolls, TROLL.
Oh, no.
Oh, they're like lawyers who exploit small businesses. They go around look for, say, an e-commerce website who's not accessibility compliant, but who's tag compliant maybe, and then they hire a disabled person to sue that small business, shut them down. But basically, either they pay up like thousands of dollars or shut them down. So that's, I guess, another incentive.
Oh, that's a different kind of incentive. Yeah. Yeah, crazy. Yes.
Just a PSA announcement, I guess, in terms of accessibility, like both BC, the province of BC, as well as the government of Canada mandates accessibility law or act that is punishable up to $250,000. $250,000. Yeah, if you don't follow these like WCAG 2.0 to a certain extent, like you are liable. But mostly for public companies first. But yeah, also subject to
I know that in Canada, I think there is a bill that it's going to be start to be effective on May 2025. I don't know like what are the criteria to apply, but I know it's coming to the private sector as well. Well, this is really sad that we have to go through this way. But honestly, like most of the companies, they think of accessibility as like a charity or something like that, which is very stupid because if you consider like including those people to your process, like you can also sell to them, like you can make like they can be part of the flow that you have in your company, and it's like we are talking about like millions and millions of dollars, like a lot of money, like a lot of potential customers as well. But in the end, like what it was being working recently is that like some activists around the globe, like they get organized and they try to fight for like interventions from the government, so like bills that can guarantee that products needs to be accessible. But it's a long fight. It's a long fight, and I think we have like a long way to go, because even when they are able to pass a bill or something like that, the fees are actually very, like it's nothing for big companies. But it generates a cascade effects, because if you need to provide services for government or NGOs and stuff like that, some of those organizations, they don't have the option to not be compliant. So I think this is also that it's also helping pushing accessibility a lot, because if your product needs to provide service for like government or something like that, they don't have the option. Like, it's not an option for them to not be compliant, which is good, because those laws are way more guaranteed. So yeah, that's also the reason why companies are investing more in accessibility, because they can also sell their products and service to governments and organizations that doesn't have the option to not be compliant. Thank you. What?
So when I do talks on testing, I always get the same question about what can I do to get started, or how can I convince a company to get started? So what is your simple, easy, I can show it works, I can show the benefit. What is your one target that you suggest someone starts with?
Yeah, I would say like our friend said here, like the plugins. You have AXE. It's a tool developed by a company called DAC, and the plugins available for Firefox, Chrome, and you can start running against your own applications. That's a start,
What would be the big impact thing that you'd say, if you did one thing, you don't get away with one change, what would be the thing you should try out?
One thing.
What would be the thing that you thought would be the biggest impact? If you saw the error message, it was a big change. You can't do that everywhere. So there's probably a small change. You say, hey, this had a big impact. It'd be adding labels, or what would be that one thing you show a benefit?
Yeah, adding labels for sure. Don't rely on visual information only. So not only icons, and it's if you have a button that it's only an icon, provide a label for that. You can use the area label attribute on HTML to provide that. Also images, it's very important. Sometimes a very short description about what is available in the image may provide the context that a user using a screen reader is missing. So yeah, labels. Hard question.
Area label is cheap. You just do very.
Yeah, area labels. Yeah. It is.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Gustavo.
Thank you. Thanks, folks.